We're going to ask Carol Berlin about the Syrian refugee project.
Okay, well, back in around October, we were asked by Jewish Family Service of Metro West if we would sponsor a Syrian refugee family.
I found an article about Syria. Shall I read it to you? I found some information about Syria on Wikipedia. Would you like me to read it to you?
You can just turn it off. So,
I found something about Syria.
Yeah, hold it this way.
should I start again?
Yeah.
So back in October, we were asked by Jewish Family Services if we would be one of several synagogues that would sponsor a Syrian refugee family coming to this area. Jewish Family Services was working with HIAS. HIAS is a Jewish organization that works to bring in refugees. Initially, they had brought in Jewish refugees, and they may have brought in help with your grandparents come and settle here, or may have helped them in Europe or in other parts of the world. And today, they work all over the world, and they're working in refugee camps, and they work with the State Department in trying to bring refugees here. So we had already established our refugee humanitarian project here. And we, of course, said yes to that request. We are involved in that project because our Torah calls us to do this kind of work. We are called to it starting even in Genesis, where Abraham invites 3 strangers into his tent. And so we think about so many places in the Torah where the Torah says, I think it's in Exodus, where it says, you were strangers. And so these Syrians were strangers. And so we have now welcomed a family into the Boston area. They live in Framingham, and they arrived, I believe it was in February. For us to have them come here, we had to raise enough money to pay rent for a year. We had to recruit volunteers to work with them, and those volunteers are working with them almost every day of the week. It's a small group of people. They are working really, really hard. They are incredibly well dedicated. We had to find things like furniture for their home. We had to fill their kitchen with food. We had to get toys for their children. They have 2 children, 2 little boys. And now that they're here, they're learning English. They came knowing almost no English at all. So our volunteers work on that, but they are also taking them to the dentist and the doctor. They take them to meetings to fill out forms. The father has gotten a job. In September, the older child will start kindergarten, and I think the little boy will be starting preschool. So our temple has welcomed them in many ways. Our high school students made pictures for them to hang on the walls of their homes, and we're very excited about delivering those to them. So they saw snow, I think, for their first time this year. But of course, all of this happens with almost no language. But it's so exciting and so fulfilling for us as a whole synagogue community to have welcomed this group here. But we still continue to work to try and get other people here, because this was one family, and there are 65 million displaced people in this world. And you may not know this, but over half of those people are children under 18 years of age. And that's what's really scary.